I love making chili, all kinds of different varieties of chili. And I know for a fact that people have won chili cook-offs using my recipes. But when I made this one with pulled pork, oh my gosh, it is the best chili ever. You're gonna love it. And it's so easy. We're gonna get right into it. Now, first of all, you see this up here and you don't have it, don't worry about it. You can use a pot on the stove. You can use a slow cooker. You can use your Ninja Foodi, your Ninja Speedy, whatever you want. As long as it can slow cook or sear saute and simmer, you're fine. So whatever appliance you want to use is perfectly fine. All right, this one is the Ninja Possible Cooker. And there's a feature on here, this is why I chose it for this recipe. There's a feature called braise, and the braising is perfect for this recipe. It seems to be a little bit hotter than slow cook, and so it gets it done a little bit quicker, so I can get it all done in about an hour with really great flavor infusion. So that's what I'm gonna use. But sear saute on the stove, or on your Ninja Foodi, or slow cook works just fine. I'm gonna put in about a tablespoon of oil. This is just olive oil. You could use whatever oil you want. And turn it on. We're gonna go to the sear saute at first. We're gonna hit start. It's gonna preheat. That's gonna heat up that oil, and then we're gonna get our vegetables in. So this chili starts off like most chilies do, using some onion and some green bell pepper. So we're gonna get those sauteed first. You want them to be about 50% done, like to the point where they're just starting to get a little translucent in color, the onions are, and the peppers start to sweat and soften a little bit. Then we add in the minced garlic, which guess how much? 1 tablespoon or 1 bulb minced. A lot of garlic, and it works perfectly in this recipe. This is 1 large sweet onion diced into about 1/4 to 1/2 inch dice, 1½ cups. And then we have 2 green bell peppers, which is about 2 cups diced the same size as the onions. All right, while those are sauteing, let's talk about our spice blend and of course the pork that we're gonna use. So what I have here is 1 teaspoon of fine grind sea salt, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of ground mustard, 2 teaspoons of paprika. You could use sweet, which is what I used, or you could use smoked if you want. I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later. And we also wanna have 1 tablespoon of a dark chili powder, okay? We can go ahead and put those in now. I like to add the spices at this point because they kind of toast up a little bit, and I just think it adds to the depth of flavor. All right, now we're gonna add in that garlic. Stir that around, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn this off now because we are hot enough, and I'll let the residual heat just sort of saute that garlic a little bit while I talk about the other ingredients. All right, the main star of the show. Well, the spices are important, but the star of the show is the pork. So I was testing a recipe for pulled pork in the Ninja wood fire. So this is actually smoked pulled pork that I had left over. And this recipe came about because Jeff and I were hungry and I didn't feel like a pulled pork sandwich again. So I thought, oh, let me make a quick chili with the pulled pork. Let me tell you, it is the best chili ever. I'm in love with it. So I do recommend using smoked pulled pork. However, I know everybody doesn't have a smoker. So if you can't use that, and if you have the Ninja Foodi, follow my recipe for pulled pork. Make it like I say to, have it for pulled pork sandwiches, and then use leftovers for this chili. I'm gonna dump that in right now. All right, so the spices that we put in already sort of mimic the spices that go in my barbecue sauce. I have a 10-minute red sweet heat barbecue sauce. So they mimic those. And then the liquids mimic the liquids in the barbecue sauce. So I'm not using just barbecue sauce, but you could if you wanted to. I would probably limit it to about 1/4 cup to 1/2 of a cup and then adjust to taste if you just wanted to use your favorite barbecue sauce instead of 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, and a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. If you don't like apple cider vinegar, it could be white vinegar, it could be whatever you want. Not balsamic though, that would totally change the flavor. All right, so that would be what you would substitute your barbecue sauce with if you didn't want to use these ingredients. We're gonna give that a little stir around. It's already smelling so delicious. 2 cups of beef stock. Now, if you wanted to pressure cook, because let's say you have raw pork shoulder and you want to pressure cook for an hour to get this part done, stop here and go ahead and pressure cook your raw pork because this is thin enough liquid to get it done. But you're gonna have liquid from that pork. So cut your beef stock down by at least 1 cup and then use about, I would say maybe 1 pound of the raw pork, maybe 1.5 pounds. And that will give you the full pound that we used here. But we're not doing that today. We're not pressure cooking, so we can go ahead and continue to add ingredients. And they might surprise you a little bit because I always use fire roasted tomatoes in almost all of my recipes, but I didn't have any when I made this one up. So I'm just using regular canned diced tomatoes. This is one 14.5 ounce can, which is about 1.5 cups. That's going in. If you don't like tomatoes, you can skip that. It's no problem. Add in a little bit more beef stock or something like that to bulk it up, but you don't have to add that in. And then I have 1 can, which is, I think it's 15 or 16 ounces. It's 1.5 cups as well of tomato sauce. Now, if you have fire roasted tomatoes, they're not gonna do any harm, okay? So perfectly fine to add those in. Now give it a stir around. It's looking perfect. Now remember, we're gonna have a little bit of evaporation with this style of cooking. And if you're doing it on the stove, same thing. Any slow cooker or stove top is gonna have that evaporation. So if it looks a little thin right now, don't worry about it. It's gonna thicken up as it cooks, okay? Now, totally optional, but I loved the addition of color that it added and that little bit of sweetness that balances out the spiciness in some of the other ingredients, and that is corn. It can be canned corn, fresh corn, frozen corn. You want about 1.5 cups. Put that in. All right, the beans. What you use is up to you, okay? But I am gonna tell you that these chili beans have a sauce to them, and you use the sauce. So if you use like kidney beans and you have them drained, or black beans and you have those drained, you're going to need to add additional seasonings because this has a little chili sauce with it. So I'm using the Bush's chili beans, and it is 16 ounces. And they are great. It's a mild, they're not spicy or anything, but they just add a richness. Oh my gosh, look at that. Oh, it looks so good already. All right, now for a little spice, a couple things you can do. I'm using a red hot pepper from my garden. You could use a jalapeno pepper, that'd be fine, or any pepper that you like. If you don't want it spicy, omit it. And what I always recommend doing, slice a little bit off. I might regret this, but that's actually on the mild side. Then you can decide how much you want to put in and how many of the seeds you want to put in. This one's pretty mild and it doesn't have a lot of seeds. I'm gonna go ahead and add the whole thing in. I hope I don't regret that. Sometimes less is more. Now you can saute this pepper with the other vegetables, but I like to just add it in like this, and I like to add it in the slices, the little circles. I like the way it looks, totally up to you. All right, now we have this off because now I'm gonna go to the braise. So turn it back on. Select braise, and I'm gonna hit start, and I'm gonna take my time down to 1 hour. If you're slow cooking on high, you wanna go 2 hours. If you are slow cooking on low, you wanna go 4 hours. that will give enough time for all the ingredients to really meld together. But basically, if you're using leftover pork, it's all cooked, right? So you could just simmer this, for 30 minutes, give it a taste, see if you like it. If it tastes good, serve it, right? If it needs more time, let it simmer longer. All right, so we're down to the last few minutes and it's time to taste for seasonings. This is super important because you want to make sure that it has enough salt, has enough spice, all the flavors have blended together. So usually I do that about 10 minutes before it's done. And I love this braise feature. It has kept this at a perfect simmer. So this would be great if you have this appliance. Wonderful for making like your Sunday gravy, your spaghetti sauces and things like that. It has kept it perfect the entire time. I'm so happy with it. All right, so give it a stir around. It looks beautiful. It's nice and thick. Oh my gosh. All right, now I'm just gonna put a little bit in the bowl here with just a little bit of liquid. Now earlier in the video I said that I would go over smoked paprika versus sweet paprika. I chose sweet paprika because I know that there's some smoked paprika and wood smoke in the pork already, so that's what I decided to do. But if you're using pulled pork that has not been smoked, you might want to use smoked paprika. But there is a secret to using smoked paprika. Don't add it in the beginning, okay? Because that smokiness sort of cooks off. Add it at the end. So if you're gonna add smoked paprika, now's the time to do it, okay? You can replace that for the sweet paprika that I used, or you could add in both. It would be no problem. All right, let's give it a taste. Oh, I hope I don't regret adding that whole pepper. That's what I'm worried about. I don't regret it one bit. Wow. In fact, it could be just a tad bit spicier. So what I'm gonna add in is about a 1/4 teaspoon of chipotle pepper in a powder form. Small amounts, guys, because this can really, really spice things up. You could use cayenne, but I like the smokiness of the chipotle. It goes really well with the pulled pork. Give that a stir around. And then we'll be ready to serve it. Now, how you serve your pulled pork chili is up to you, but me, I'm gonna use a little bit of shredded cheese. This is Colby Jack. You could use cheddar, whatever you like. And then, of course, some hush puppies straight out of the air fryer. These are homemade, they are delicious, and they go perfectly with this pulled pork chili. You can find the recipe on my website, thesaltedpepper.com. Super easy to make. They're like little cornbreads, but they're a little crunchy, they're a little sweet. Oh my gosh, they're so good. All right, let's go ahead and get a scoop. I'm not gonna put too much in there because I don't need a whole bowl right now. Little cheese on top, and then a little hush puppy in there. Let's taste it. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is so incredibly good. It's pretty hot right now though, but it is so good. Even though I just put in that chipotle, it just bumped up that spice just enough. Absolutely perfect. This is a winner, guys. I mean, really, really good. So next time you have some pulled pork that you need to use up, make pulled pork chili. You will thank me.